All right, good morning. I am here with Edward Hernandez. He is a retired United States Marine Corps veteran who is going to share with us today about his physical fitness regimen and his thoughts on mental toughness. So welcome, Edward. How are you?
Thank you, Darcy, for having me. I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. So let's jump right in. Share how you became involved in the United States Marine Corps back about 21 years ago.
Yeah, just roughly. Around 1998, I got involved with the Marine Corps. I joined with the delayed entry program. A buddy of mine had joined or had just left for boot camp. I saw what it was all about. And, I felt like I was ready for something different because I wasn't quite ready for college. So I figured, let me do something productive in the meantime while I pave a different path for myself.
Okay, great. And so what was your physical conditioning like in boot camp versus after you joined the fleet?
So in boot camp, well, I'd been an athlete throughout high school. As a kid and growing up. So boot camp, they focused on fundamentals and building you up. So like building blocks, something basic as stretching, calisthenics, strength and conditioning, strength and endurance, obstacle courses, running with boots, which was something very different for me at the time, and I'm sure anyone that joins, and then stretching. But the big focus during those fundamental blocks was understanding why we were doing it and how it prevents injury in the future. Once I got to the Fleet Marine Force, um, the programs were a little bit different, right? You still build on those fundamental blocks. However, say for example, if we're getting ready to test for a physical fitness test for SCORE, then you start doing a lot more activities or a lot more running or anything that's going to help you improve your score. If you're getting ready to get certified for a specific type of mission, then you might find yourself doing more conditioning hikes. And then you start very basic from there as well. You start anywhere from 3 miles, then you build up to 7, 10. In some cases, there's certifications that require up to 15 miles. So that's another different, level of conditioning that we have to be prepared. And we're talking about hikes with full loads anywhere from 60 to 90 pounds, just depending on what equipment is required. So everything gets tailored based on mission. Everything gets tailored based on where you're going or what you're doing. So that's kind of how it differs, because in boot camp, again, everything's just basic.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And so what helps you maintain those physical fitness standards during adverse conditions, such as training exercises or deployments? I understand that you deployed a few times.
Yes, I deployed 6 different times, and every deployment's different. You have access to certain things. So like one example of where you don't have access to a lot is, when you're training and you're out, you're out in the bush or you're out in the desert, wherever it is that you're assigned to. You may not have access to a gym because you're very remote from, any even small camp. In those instances, you find people with ammo cans. You might find TRX bands. You might find whatever other equipment might be laying out there, so for you to improvise and at least keep some kind of muscle density, right? People don't. People think, oh, let me pick up a bag that has radios in it. Well, those radios are pretty heavy. Talking about 20 pounds. So if you can improvise a little bit, you might be able to get creative and actually maintain a level of fitness, right? It may not be the ideal conditions that you want, but at the very least, you're maintaining some muscle memory. Um, in other places and in other areas where I was able to deploy, I should say, had the access to gyms. Some gyms were not the greatest. They weren't your Bally's or your EOS, but they had enough of what you needed in order to be able to maintain cardiovascular endurance, and as well as if you wanted to grow muscle, then you probably could. You could probably maintain it, but that access was available. It just varied. It varied in, again, equipment, but it was there.
Okay, understood. So share some about your physical fitness routine more recently, and also any tips, any advice that you would share with younger people who are interested in joining the military in terms of how to become more physically fit.
All right. Um, so now that I'm retired, like the pressure's not as hectic, for me. In me, trying to achieve that 300 or the highest level, the highest score possible. But these days, I still maintain. I still have, like, I try to keep up with those standards. Um, I I make every effort to maintain the highest level of fitness that I believe I need. Um, are you still there? Did I lose you? I had a
Your
phone call.
video cut out for just a second, but could still hear you, so keep going.
Okay, sorry, I apologize for that. So, um, my current routine. Sorry, I got distracted. Focuses a lot on strength and endurance. By way of high repetition, low weight, anywhere from 5 to 6 sets, and then those repetitions are about 15. Um, and I keep that for about 4 weeks, and then eventually, once that cycle's over, then I'll revert back to a heavier weight. I focus on muscle groups: arms, legs, chest. Sometimes I add legs. If my routine is a little shorter, um, and then cardio 3 times a week. So I do a specific machine for 20 minutes. So this morning I was on the elliptical machine for 20 minutes, jumped off of that, and then I was on the rowing machine for 20 minutes. And the goal is to just maintain a nice cardiovascular heart rate, if you will, uh, to be able to get something out of it. Um, and then, just as important as doing all of that cardio and all of the, you know, uh, routine that I have going on right now, it's also important to stretch. And as you get older, like myself, I struggle with lower back issues at times. So I have to consistently do stretches to be able to not just strengthen the muscle groups, but also strengthen my back. And a lot of people forget about that. So that's where my routine focuses almost daily, with those stretches. For those individuals that are interested to become United States Marines, or just any service for that matter, is you have to find where you are, what level of fitness you are at. If you're an athlete, you probably won't struggle as much. But if you're not an athlete, it shouldn't deter you. You should be able to see where you're at that point in time, and then to kind of gather a solid baseline. One thing that we would do with recruits, um, is that they get an initial strength test and understanding what it is, or what that minimum standard is. So a quick example that I came up with was, if you are not an athlete, you start off, you test yourself at a mile and a half, and you see what your time is. And then for 3 weeks straight, on 3 separate days, you'll probably run a mile and a half. The second day you run 1 mile, and then the third day you run 2 miles. You repeat that for 3 times, and then at the end of that cycle, you time yourself again to see where you've improved, with pull-ups, because the Marine Corps is big on pull-ups. You see what your maximum is. Say my maximum is 10, I will scale down to 4, and I work what I call a reverse pyramid. So I start at 4, but I do 4 sets of 4, 3 of 3, 2 of 2, and then 1. And you do that, in conjunction with the 3 weeks that you're running. Your crunches, you do the same thing. You do 3 1-minute drills, and then 30-second drills, to see how you can max out. The point is to exhaust your body to be able to max out in the future, because the goal is to run 3 miles, achieve at least, I believe at this point, is 21 pull-ups. And then the crunches, I'm not sure if they moved those up. I mean, I've been retired for almost 2 years, but I think the crunches are still at 100 unless they move them up. Then, you want to attain those goals. So it's finding the baseline, understanding where you're at, and then trying to move closer and closer to what that required standard is. And it's very doable. It's just a little part of it is you have to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for here? You have to understand that it's something you can embrace altogether. So that would be my advice for you if you're trying to join the Marine Corps.
Okay, got it. So all that said, what is your definition of mental toughness?
For me, that was a tough one. I had to kind of put that one together a little bit when I started thinking about that. But mental toughness for me is understanding your hardships, pushing through them, and learning from them. Because going forward, you have to know, one, you're prepared. You'll be prepared for more, and at the same time, you'll know that you can take on more. The mind to me is like a muscle, right? You have to. It doesn't go through stress. If it doesn't go through stress, it will never build like that mental toughness required, specifically with the Marine Corps, or it won't build that toughness to be able to handle situations that you might be in, depending on wherever the Marine Corps sends you. So it has to be tested continuously in order to be able to build that toughness it needs.
All right, great answer. So, what are some motivating factors for you these days in your workouts? What keeps you going? What keeps you active in the gym?
Um, Motivating factors for me are basically result driven, right? So if I set a goal and I get there and I achieve that goal, then I want more. It never ends. Reaching milestones motivates me. So if I get to where I'm going, then it's like, all right, let's get to the next level and see if we can attain that. And everything is measured in realistic, I guess, segments or milestones. The other thing is motivating my kids, right? Because I have to set an example for them. That's the other motivating factor for me, because if they see that I stay busy and that I stay active, uh, in some way, shape, or form, they're gonna see not necessarily the fact that, oh, dad goes to the gym and his arms are getting bigger, or he's leaning out, or he's running faster. They're gonna see the small part that uh, probably a lot of people won't necessarily notice it, but dedication. And it's just dedicating myself to, okay, I'm going to the gym every day, getting up at this time or going at this time or adjusting to get there, to be able to fulfill that commitment that I've made to myself. So if anything is dedication and commitment, that continues to motivate me and setting the example for them and anybody around me that I might be able to inspire.
Great. And so, how has maintaining your physical conditioning translated to how you approach your personal life, whether that's your relationships, work, your kids?
The physical fitness, the way it's translated into my personal life, I mean, if you want to get faster, if you want to get stronger, it takes a little bit of work. So that's how it translates, like personal relationships, friendships, um, and anything else that deals with my personal life. It requires a little bit of work. I have to put a little bit of effort into it if I want to make, say, my friendships that I've lost for a little while. If I want to bring those back in, I have to make that effort, make the contact, have good communication, um, you know, or work. For example, if I want to be good at what I'm doing, I need to understand the policies. I need to read manuals, bulletins, anything that's going to help me improve, to be more effective and to be able to develop others, depending on where I'm at or what capacity I'm serving in. So it takes a little bit of work, and that's how it translates to, because if you're reading manuals, it's work. If you're lifting weights, it's work for yourself, and for that, I guess you can say, that gratification of physical fitness.
All right. So, one last question for you. do you believe resilience is innate, or do you think it's developed throughout the lifespan?
That's a good question. I believe that it is definitely built and developed uh, throughout a lifespan because I don't think, I mean, I, at least I don't know of anyone that was just born resilient to anything in every situation. I believe that, um, it all varies, right? It's not every individual has the same resiliency as others. For example, someone that uh, lives in Logan Heights is going to go through different trials and different obstacles that someone that lives in La Jolla, right? But they're going to experience levels of stress depending on what they go through. Um, but at the same time, they're never going to be the same. However, it's all based on the environment that you're in. So I think that it's developed throughout how you grow up. I mean, I think that kids, uh, as kids, once we get introduced to socializing with other kids, that's when some of those things start to develop because, you know, kids are kids, they maybe they push each other around or, as you grow up, you deal with different personalities. So it is something that's continuous throughout because, again, depending on the environment that you're in, where you're placed, where you go, where you live, all those things are factored into it. But I think it continues and it continues to develop even as you get older.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And unless you had any closing thoughts for us, you answered all the questions.
I just want to say thank you for having me and for allowing me the opportunity to be part of this presentation.
All right. Well, thank you so much and take care.
Thank you.